Sharma. I'm the Executive Director of Science for Georgia. I'd like to welcome you to our Spring Intern Showcase. We have many exciting interns who've done some really cool stuff over the semester, and I can't wait to have them share with you about what's been going on. Uh, I'm not even going to show the slides introducing Science for Georgia because I feel that you're going to see enough slides. So we're just going to wing it. We're going to talk about Science for Georgia is awesome, and we've been around since 2018. And our primary mission is to get science out of the lab and out onto the street, making a difference in people's lives. And so we do that by teaching communication classes to students in college and beyond. We have community outreach events like this and like Georgia Science Junction, which this is a Georgia Science Junction, climate survival training, and then more fun things like Science Jazz Hands, our comedy show. And then the third thing we do is make sure science has a seat at the table in policy making. And so what you're going to see here tonight is a combination of all three of those things. Our interns have been hard at work on translating impactful science and helping it to make a difference in communities around Georgia. So I'm super excited to have all of our interns here to show you all the cool things that they have been doing. And to kick us off is the one and only Gracie Landrum, and I'm so excited to welcome her to the stage. Yay, Gracie!
Hi, like Amy said, I'm Gracie Landrum. I started off on the environmental justice team at Science for Georgia, and now I am on the legislative team. And so I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the legislative side of what I've been doing this semester. I have been focusing mainly on the Health and Human Services Committee of the Georgia Legislature, which is a Senate committee. And so here's some of the work I've been doing on it. But first, a little bit about me. I go to Emory University at the Rollins School of Public Health. I'm getting my master's in public health policy with a concentration in human rights. And I joined Science for Georgia as a part of a work study program at Rollins. But more of why I joined Science for Georgia is because I love the environment. I'm a huge environmentalist, and I've been working throughout my time in school to do different climate justice activities. I'm also just like a huge political junkie. I listen to way too many podcasts every single day, way too into it. And so the opportunity to work in policy and advocacy was like really drawing to me. And also, I just really love science. And that started when my grandpa would watch me as a little kid and show me a bunch of different science videos, and it got me into it. So I'll just start off talking about some of the public health priorities that we released at Science for Georgia that I worked on. A few of them was opioid crisis. One of the bills that was coming out of the House was HB 1170, which was originally supposed to be about putting Narcan in government buildings, but it ultimately failed. We also said we wanted to prioritize rural medicine, and one of the bills that came out of the House about that was a reform to the Certificate of Need program, which actually did pass, and will help stop hospital closures in rural areas and help new health facilities open in areas with less people. And then the last thing is Medicaid. There was no Medicaid expansion, which we saw coming. But there was some good silver linings in that, along with the reform to the Certificate of Need program, there is going to be a study commission on Medicaid. And if it's actually filled with experts, you'll see that it's good to expand Medicaid in the state. So a little bit about how I went through doing this. I would go through watching meetings of the Health and Human Services Committee, and most of them were quite boring. As they mainly just talked about niche insurance stuff. But I also got to attend a lot of coalition meetings, learning more about child and family health, and different bills that some of our partners are working on and were working on getting passed. And in the state. And then I went through and picked out the ones that were the least boring of the bills and then started writing scorecards on them. I got to do a lot of different scorecards on a variety of topics. I've mainly focused on like maternal health. I wrote up a scorecard on the sports betting bill that failed, as well as on all the bills I mentioned previously, and also some on education equity. But it was really a lot of variety coming out of the House and Senate this term. And then I ended up having to write a white paper, short notice, as they got to bring up some interesting bills that I'm going to get into next. So when I mentioned the House Bill 1170, I said that it was originally supposed to be about getting Narcan in government buildings, but in the middle of a meeting, Republican lawmakers snuck in a new provision to ban puberty blockers for gender-affirming care in Georgia. It was very dramatic and probably the most interesting meeting of the Health and Human Services Committee. And it was clear that there were no opponents of the bill that knew that it was coming, and half of the legislators in the committee did not even know that it was coming. And so all of the experts that spoke on the bill were for it and were clearly given notice ahead of time. And while it did pass out of committee, it luckily did not ultimately pass the House. So what's coming next? Hopefully, this was a good win. We saw several other wins for gender affirming care and equity in Georgia this session. And we also saw a few other silver linings, like the study for Medicaid and also a study on the maternal health crisis that's ongoing in Georgia. And hopefully the committees will be filled with real experts who are unbiased and listen to the science. And then that lawmakers are able to take that and pass some really good legislation. Here's hoping. And then as for me, I'm graduating in 2 weeks, which is so exciting. And after that, I am going to take some time off to travel for my first time, going abroad. And then I am also currently in the application process for different policy jobs at state and federal level, and hopefully I'll get a job. But yeah. And then here's kind of all the things that I worked on this semester. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Gracie. Yay. All right. That was amazing. Cool. All right. So that was great. We learned a lot about that. I'd like to personally thank Gracie for all the help. We did have a ton of quick turns and weird things that came up during the legislative session, and she was always able to help make things happen very quickly, which is the speed of the legislator. So thank you so much for that, Gracie. All right. Our next speaker is Joe Canastra. Hopefully he's gonna come on. I don't know. My view's all screwed up here, so I'm hoping. All right, cool. Is he here?
Yes,
is he
hello.
here? Yes. Yay!
Hi,
Sorry. Thanks. Welcome to the stage, Joe, and take it away, Joe. Thank you.
Sure. Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Canastra, and this is my wrap-up of my spring internship here at Science for Georgia. So just a little bit about me. So I'm a student currently at the University of Georgia, working on my MPH with my concentration in epidemiology. And I decided to join Science for Georgia because when I did my initial interview, I learned that they did a lot of outreach with universities in the area. And that was very interesting to me because I know that when we try to make either policy changes or when we try to do outreach, what's really important is getting college-age people involved to get them mobilized and informed about what's going on in their community. So that's a big thing that influenced me to get involved with Science for Georgia. So what did I work on while I was here? So the problem that I was kind of tasked with tackling was pollution and environmental injustice in the South DeKalb area. And this is a problem in the area because essentially there are many concerns about the environmental situation in South DeKalb, and there's kind of this large standing sentiment that not enough is being done to fix it currently, either that there's not enough policy in place to address the issues, or either the policy in place is not being enforced as it should be. And to try to solve this problem, we reached out to student leaders at Agnes Scott to see kind of what their current concerns were with the environmental situation. And we tried to find a way to get them involved, to get their student body involved with either outreach or maybe education so everyone can be informed on the current situation. So, kind of to this cause, I ended up creating a data repository, which I cataloged basically various concerns and data we have on the environmental injustices in South DeKalb, put it all together so basically people in the future could use it to maybe inform materials that could be distributed to people in South DeKalb or to students at Agnes Scott so they can be informed on the current situation. And then we also created a website update to what's going on in Entrenchment Creek. There's been a lot of environmental concerns there, as there's been development of selling the land and developing it for various causes. So we did that as well to help keep people informed. And then finally, we worked with the students at Agnes Scott to try to plan out an event that their students can take part in to yet again either maybe get involved in their area or to get their students informed about what's going on in their area environmentally. But actually, the highlight of my experience didn't necessarily involve that. It was when I got to go to the state capitol and talk to the lawmakers there about certain environmental justice bills that we were interested in at the time. Now, sadly, while I was there, I didn't get the chance to talk to my legislator. They didn't come out, so I didn't get the chance. But it was a really informative and really cool experience because what it really opened my eyes to was how accessible the House is in Georgia to people that are concerned. Like you wouldn't think you could just walk in there and talk to your legislator and talk to the people, but you can. So it was a really neat experience. I think it's was really important to kind of give me some more perspective on the way things work. So what's next for me? So I hope that the people at Agnes Scott will continue to work for Science for Georgia to make an event that will, everyone can be happy with and keep everyone informed and involved. We didn't come to an exact conclusion on exactly they want to do what they want to do yet. We kind of ran out of time here at the end of the semester, but I hope that we can keep working together so they can decide on something to do in the future. And I also hope that the document I created will go on to inform people about South DeKalb, maybe can be used to make materials that will one day be distributed to people. And then, as far as I'm going, I'm mostly just looking for a job right now. I haven't found anything yet, but I'm sure it will work out, hopefully. And then this is just a link. This is the link to the SharePoint of everything I worked on. I guess it's not very useful in the form of a PowerPoint, but that here it is. And that's all I have. Thank you.
And I'm muted. All right. Thank you, Joe. That was really good. Also, Joe did a quick turn for us at the beginning of the semester. I was trying to figure out something about the Okefenokee Swamp, and Joe did a really great job of helping me to find out what exactly the scientific definition of a natural dam is, which you would think would be easy, but actually that was a lot. So that was actually really helpful too. So thank you, Joe. Yeah. All right, round of applause. We're doing rounds of applause. All right, our next esteemed speaker is Kelly Fry. So welcome to the stage, Kelly.
Hello. Let me share my screen. Okay, are we looking good?
Looks great, Kelly.
Okay, perfect. Okay, hi everyone. As Amy said, my name is Kelly Fry, and I'm going to talk about some of the work I've been doing at Science for Georgia this semester to advance environmental justice in South Fulton. So just to introduce myself a little bit, I'm also an MPH student at UGA with a concentration in environmental health science. And for the past few months, I've had the opportunity to work as an advocacy intern with Science for Georgia, working on their environmental justice team. And I came to Science for Georgia initially interested in an internship because I'm a really strong proponent of using not only science, but effective communication of that science and data to drive change for really pressing issues like environmental justice. And as I've come to learn through this internship and other experiences, there's a lot of really good science and data out there, but someone needs to tell the story behind that science. So this internship was really a perfect combination of getting to apply all of the knowledge and skills I've gained with developing my skills in science communication, public outreach, and maintaining partnerships. So for much of my internship, I was collaborating with a grassroots organization in South Fulton, the Southside Environmental Justice Alliance, or SAJA for short. This is a group of citizens in South Fulton who are concerned about a variety of environmental health issues in their community, especially the presence of industrial facilities that release toxic chemicals. So SAJA has been partnering with Science for Georgia for the past few months to help them understand the nature of these issues and how to address them. Because people in South Fulton know that there are problems, but they don't necessarily have all the information that they need or know what they can do to address it. So that's kind of where Science for Georgia's role fits in. So after meeting with SAJA and hearing some of their biggest concerns, I did some research using a variety of different data sources. So first, I looked at the EPA's toxics release inventory, which is a system that keeps track of toxic chemical releases for thousands of facilities nationwide. I also dove into the EPA's enforcement and compliance database so that we could see which facilities in the area had recently violated environmental laws like the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. And I did some looking into some peer-reviewed literature to see what the science says about the potential health effects of these exposures. And then with all that information, I created some concise and actionable educational materials that can help community members to understand what's going on in their neighborhood so that they can have the knowledge that they need to advocate for a cleaner environment. So here's a quick snapshot of just some of the data that I found. So there are 17 facilities, at least within the area, that are required to report to the toxics release inventory. And of those, only 3 of them accounted for nearly 100% of the total industrial facility-related health risk in the area. The health risk is calculated with something called the risk screening environmental indicators model, which is a kind of complicated model that the EPA developed. So I won't go into too many details there, but you can look it up on your own if you're curious. But the 3 facilities that were identified were Owens Corning, which manufactures insulation materials, Sterilization Services of Georgia, which uses ethylene oxide to sterilize medical equipment. Ethylene oxide has actually been getting a lot of media attention recently, and the EPA actually just enacted a new rule that is going to greatly limit how much ethylene oxide that facilities can release. And the third was SVC Manufacturing, which is also known as PepsiCo. So they, of course, manufacture soft drinks. And we also know that from the scientific literature that the chemicals being released from those facilities can cause adverse health impacts at high enough exposures. So for example, manganese, which Owens Corning released a lot of in 2022, has been associated with worse brain function at high enough exposures. And ethylene oxide is pretty certainly known to cause cancer in humans. Now, a disclaimer, that doesn't actually automatically mean that these facilities are causing these health impacts. It's going to take a lot more detailed risk assessment information to sort of make that conclusion. But what we can tell from this information is what facilities and chemicals are the most concerning and should be targeted for air and water monitoring or working with facilities on pollution prevention efforts. There have actually been a lot of success stories in communities nationwide with using this type of information from TRI, for example, to work with facilities and advocate for a healthier environment. And they've seen real change on the part of these polluting facilities, which is pretty exciting. And then we worked together with SAJA to develop some relevant and actionable communication materials that we can give out to community members. So we distributed several copies of this pamphlet at an Earth Day parade and learning fair in South Fulton this past weekend. And Saja also has funding to print more of these and go canvassing throughout their community to get more people on board with their cause. And so in the last stretch of my internship, I'm working on finalizing a report on the current situation in South Fulton to help inform action going forward. For example, Saja wants to start doing air and water monitoring. So identifying problem locations can help them choose which areas to monitor. And then, like I said before, this kind of information can also help identify troublesome facilities that they can work with on pollution prevention efforts. And I also developed a couple of reference guides for the databases that I used and became somewhat familiar with, so that hopefully this kind of work can be more easily done in other communities in the future. And then just to wrap up, as for my personal next steps, I am graduating in a couple of weeks, and I'm actively applying and interviewing for jobs right now. So this is a shameless plug to add me on LinkedIn. But yeah, I just want to wrap up and say that this internship with Science for Georgia has been a really great experience, and I've learned so much about science communication, community outreach, environmental justice, and yeah, I'm really excited for what the future holds. So thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Yay! Yeah, I'm super excited that Kelly was able to get those pamphlets out and they were distributed. That's really exciting news that it's out there. There was actually a WABE article about what's going on in South Fulton last week. So that was really exciting to read too. So cool that all of this is happening. So thank you so much for that, Kelly. We really appreciate it. All right, coming next to the stage is Brian Croft. So take it away, Brian.
Sorry about that. I shared my screen and then the mute button disappeared. Hello, I'm Brian Croft. And while I worked at Science for Georgia, my primary project was addressing food insecurity at GSU. So just a little bit about me. I'm from the University of Georgia, where I'm getting my master's in public health with a focus in epidemiology. And I originally found Science for Georgia because I heard about it through my school, and I thought it was a great opportunity to sort of use the skills I learned in the classroom to try to help out my community and Georgia as a whole. So more specifically about my project, we are looking to solve the food insecurity issue at GSU. As of right now, 59% of students at GSU are food insecure and are not receiving adequate assistance. There's many negative health effects that can result from this, as well as impacts on academic achievement. And the main way we sought to sort of alleviate this issue was to connect different groups and resources that were available at the GSU campus to try to combat this issue better and help students find a solution from food insecurity. So what did I do? I was helping to facilitate communication between different parties, and we ended up being able to coordinate an event at the Decatur Gardens at the GSU campus to try to help get student engagement there, as well as provide more resources for students to work with to try to help alleviate food insecurity there. We produced flyers and pamphlets to help communicate events and information and different data about food insecurity to the student body. And I also was able to attend a few events with Emory to find out individuals who are working on this issue and try to help Science for Georgia expand their sort of collaborative efforts with these people. What I mainly discovered from this entire research, though, is that food insecurity is a very, very big issue, not just at GSU, but across the nation. But it seems that by and large, there's tons of organizations doing fantastic work trying to alleviate this issue, but there's a lack of student knowledge about this. And I was hoping that through our internship, we could try to connect people with these to help solve the issue that there's tons of passionate people trying to fix. So the highlight of my experience was actually working with Emory. We were helping some of the students with their APE project, and I thought it was very interesting being able to go back and forth with them and sort of share some of the knowledge I gained both in my internship and in education, and sort of learn from them as well about what they learned at Emory to help come together and create this project for them, which was really cool and engaging. So what's next for me, or what's next for the project? I hope that there's a food summit that might be coming up this fall, and I'm hoping we can sort of hand this off to the next set of interns and keep it going, fingers crossed, and help get a bunch more people together to try to address the issue within GSU. And as for me, I'm currently continuing my job hunt.
All right. Thank you, Brian. I was trying to find my mute button. That was really good. Really appreciate it. Yeah, food security is a really complex, many-faceted thing. And as we started working with some professors at GSU, it turns out like there are so many people looking at it at GSU and so many things going on. So it is our goal to work with them to at least host a food summit in the fall and really at least get all these people on campus talking to each other. That's step one. So that was great. Thank you so much, Brian. Yay. All right. Julia Singer is our next speaker, and I am happy to welcome her to the stage. Take it away, Julia.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Julia Singer, and my project involved identifying climate burdened counties in Georgia using GIS analysis, which is a new skill that I've learned while attending Emory, and I've really enjoyed getting to use it. So a bit about me, I'm currently also a MPH student at the Rollins School of Public Health, and my concentration is environmental health and epidemiology. And starting in August of 23, I joined Science for Georgia as an environmental health and justice intern. And I wanted to contribute to the improvement of environmental justice. I wanted to evaluate environmental health disparities across Georgia, and I also wanted the opportunity to work with vulnerable communities and help make a change. So I had a big project that was very time consuming, but it was very rewarding. It was focused on climate change in Georgia in general. And as it is an environmental justice issue, and the new environmental justice map was created by Sierra last summer, I wanted to kind of add some additional data that would help inform decisions when using that map. So throughout my research, I found that southeastern US states have been experiencing unequal consequences of a changing climate. And those are heat waves, flooding, drought, and hurricanes. Those just happen to be the four most common and the ones that are increasing in frequency. But many of the communities in Georgia that are also environmental justice burdened communities lack the proper resources to prepare for or recover from these events. So I wanted to address the small gap in the EJ map by adding some climate change data and see if we could identify any other climate burdened counties that we may be able to reach out to, maybe able to start collaborating with to conduct climate survival trainings that Michael does. So that was kind of my idea behind the whole project. So this is just a preliminary map that I made, just showing the climate and economic justice screening tool and EJ screen data. I singled out the communities or counties in red that belong to the 94th percentile for environmental justice burden or higher. That's just how the climate and economic justice screening tool categorizes the highest burden communities. And so I wanted to create some climate maps based on the climate change indicators that represented, the number of events and the associated impact in terms of loss. And so using National Risk Index data managed by FEMA, I was able to create some maps that showed the annualized frequency of a particular climate event and the expected annual loss score, which is basically a total score encompassing population equivalence, building value, and agricultural value. And they're all monetized values, essentially. So the population equivalence is, a monetized value of statistical life and loss of that life. So the first one is heat waves. And on the left side, you have the annualized frequency events. And on the other side, you have expected annual loss score. And so I wanted to compare which counties overlapped, which counties appeared in the highest ranking for that score. And so you see that on that these communities here are all listed as vulnerable to heat waves. And Chatham is bolded because it appears on both sides of the map. The riverine flooding maps show that really Fulton is the only environmental justice burden county that is impacted by an increasing frequency in riverine flooding. But the impact, the loss of life due to the flooding is really profound. And so aside, Fulton is in there as well, but you have a plethora of other counties added to this list. And this is within the highest score percentile. Drought, I was really interested by because the annualized frequency, you see it happening in somewhat northern central Georgia. It's a bit of a diagonal line, but the frequency is pretty high at 68.4 as the max, at least. And then you move on to the expected annual loss scores, and you see the 93 to 99 scores. You see that it kind of trickles down. So the loss actually impacts not just the counties that are directly experiencing the drought, but counties below that are affected as well. So I found that to be pretty shocking. And lastly, hurricanes. This is kind of what I expected to see. Because there's a lot of coastal flooding, and that's increasing. I expected to see that there would be an increased frequency around the coast, as well as increased loss or potential for loss. And so that's what is shown there, but it's more drastic for the expected annual loss. And that, again, is an aggregated value of agricultural value, building value, and population value. So these were the counties that were impacted by 3 or 4 out of 4 climate change indicators. And they are Sumter, Crisp, Chatham, Bibb, Ben Hill, Mitchell, Doherty, and Richmond. And so, my thought process is that, maybe there's community organizations that we can reach out to begin informing the public more about climate change and how they can protect themselves, how they can prepare for these natural disasters, and also how they can recover from that as well. And then just a few other side projects I just wanted to highlight. I helped Amy make some collage maps, and that was a lot of fun and a lot of going back and forth, and we made it work. So that was really, that felt rewarding because I was given a task and just kind of given free will, and I was able to execute it. So I was proud of myself for that. And I also partook in the Environmental Justice Take Action quarterly forums with Deborah Edelson and Becky Evans. And so that's been also very rewarding. And I am looking forward to our upcoming event this Saturday. So just a little bit of an overview of my highlights. I really enjoyed making the graphs that I did and the maps that I made. It was fun for me at least. So I enjoyed the work. I also enjoyed having a say and feeling like I was a part of making a change, and being a part of community collaboration was also, that was probably my first time really engaging with the community. So I got a really great firsthand experience at that, and is something that I'd like to take with me after I graduate. Next steps, I am going back home to Boston. I am not excited for the change in temperature, but it is what it is. And like everybody else, I'm also seeking opportunities, mainly, and because of Science for Georgia, I am really looking for positions pertaining to environmental justice, environmental policy, and helping to make a difference, especially for communities that don't have a voice. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Julia. Huge props to Julia. What she didn't mention was that like that initial fall forum was a herding of at least a dozen cats. I don't know. There was a lot going on. There were a lot of things happening with that. And we were like, hey, let's plan this thing. You got it, Julia. And yeah, so we really threw her into the deep end on that one. So thank you for making that happen. It was really awesome. And I'm excited that we've been able to keep those going. So it's been really.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much, Julia. Okay, so we have actually 3 videos for our final 3 interns couldn't make it, so now we're gonna see if I can figure out how to show but they made us some delightful videos, so I'm kind of excited about this. So we're gonna see if this loads. Hold on. Okay. Hopefully this works. We tried it beforehand. Let's say play.
Hi, I'm Tyler. I was with Science for Georgia this semester, and we were focusing on the DeKalb County consent decree, which is an issue to do with water quality in the area. I'm an MPH student at UGA focused in environmental health, and I joined because I'm interested in science communication and environmental justice, and I thought that this would be a really good opportunity to kind of marry the two together. So what we know is that, or what we knew coming in, is that DeKalb County has an aging sewer infrastructure with a large number of spills. These spills are potential exposures to a number of diseases, including E. coli, hepatitis, crypto, salmonella, and more. And these sewage spills also contain a large number of nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, which, if introduced into ecosystems, especially waterways, can lead to detrimental impacts similar to what fertilizer can do. Looking into this, we found that there was a lack of accessible information. A lot of it was tied up into technical documents that were tens, if not hundreds, of pages. And so we wanted to assemble the key information into a smaller, more readable document that would be more accessible to the public. In 2010, DeKalb County entered into the consent decree as a way of resolving a lawsuit from the US EPA and the state of Georgia EPD. The consent decree basically outlined what their civil penalty would be for failure to maintain the sewer system and what they had to do by December 2020 in order to rectify the situation and upgrade the sewer system. They did not make a ton of progress on that, and there were a number of stories that broke involving mismanagement of money and some possible illegal stuff from the leadership of the county, preventing the department from doing its job. Also, the SRWA, South River Watershed Alliance, published a story indicating that the majority of locations that had repeat spills or where sewer overflows occurred were not covered by priority areas, and so there was little incentive for the county to actually address them. All of this together led to a modification of the consent decree in 2021, extending the deadline to 2027, redefining a number of things, including how priority areas are identified. Since the modification was done in 2021, so 2021, 2022, and the most recent year we have data for 2023, there is a trend of an increase in the number of sewer overflows and spills, though that comes with a decrease in the total volume of the spills. So the previous spills were bigger but fewer, and more recently there were more but smaller spills. However, the number of spills based off of maintenance failures on the county's part has increased during those years, and the majority of repeat spills occur in 3 areas: Entrenchment Creek, Shoal Creek, and Cobb Fowler Creek in South DeKalb. And those have been near the top of repeat spills for a year, which indicates that the county is not prioritizing those areas and addressing the issues in those areas, despite the fact that they are near the top. Else they would have been addressed a long time ago. This project was very insightful. I saw basically how you can compile data and information to create the picture of what a government should have been doing versus what it actually was doing in the situation. I really enjoyed that and learning how to actually communicate that to people. I think the next step for this project will be looking at health outcomes in areas that have a large number of these sewer overflows. These can be based in disease rates for specifically diseases that are required to be reported, as some outbreaks from sewage would, though not all of them. And we can also look at the level of nutrients or the population response in waterways near the areas to determine what kind of environmental damage is happening as a result of these overflows. I think that marrying that with the number of overflows and the volume of the overflows would do a really good job of creating a picture of why the sewer system needs to be addressed. This is a SharePoint with Science for Georgia that contains all of the documents that I put together, containing things like the county's data on the sewer overflows, as well as the write-up that I did on that. Thank you. I very much enjoyed interning here, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Great. Huge round of applause to Tyler for putting together that video. I see Lou. All right, cool. We have 2 more videos. I love all this stuff. So next up is Chow. Let me make sure I can get that to share. And share, play.
So good evening, everyone. Welcome to my part. I'm Chao, and my project is about visual communication. So this is a map of China. I from one southwestern metropolis, which is also home to China's largest panda breeding facility. I have spent most of my life here and graduated with a bachelor's degree in international business. I started my first internship in a nonprofit organization here. I have 2 cats and I love hot pots. So based on my first internship and my undergraduate experience, I found that I may not want to take corporate management as my future career. So I applied to the MPA program and UGA and I joined Science for Georgia. So why I'm interested in Science for Georgia internship? First, I'd like to say how the theories I've learned in classes can be applied in the real world. Second, I've got experience in nonprofit organizations. And the last and most important reason is that I'm really curious about how science can be fun. I mean, from my high school to my undergraduate school, everything related to STEAM looks complex. So I chose Science for Georgia, and Science for Georgia chose me, which is the beginning of this story. In the next part, I'd like to talk about why my work is important. When it comes to access to information, there is a strong dependence on the internet and social media platforms. For example, if we can only use media such as physical newspapers, posters, radios to attract audience, it will take how many days for a person living outside of Atlanta to know about our events? In many cases, not online equals not accessing. So we need to make Science for Georgia online. But how do we do that? There are 2 main methods we use. First one is monthly email, and second one are daily posts through social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And I'm responsible for text, graphics, and short videos. In the next part, I'll show my work and talk something I learned from my work. So for text, I found that people like funny expressions rather than some serious words. So I use emojis for almost every post. And I did find something that corresponds to the philosophy series I've got from MPA. So there is a mechanism called awareness of need, which means that sometimes people donate because they recognize that there is a need for their donation. For Science for Georgia, in general, we hardly get any comments for events previews or reactions. However, once I wrote something like, feel free to leave your thoughts about this hand, and we really got a comment. So I realized that, oh, serious works in the real world. And the final point about tags is hashtags. To expand the reach of our posts, I'd like to add as many hashtags as possible. For example, the one post on our Facebook. However, sometimes I need to identify and analyze the influence for each hashtag to decide which of them is more important, because some platforms such as Twitter have word limitations. So the important one should be put on the first. And for graphic part, I put up the voting system infographic to illustrate. The left side is the first version, and it's just a pile of necessary elements. Copy and paste sentences from the white paper, plus arrows, plus some icons and the name Science for Georgia. And for the formal version was based on suggestions from Frankie and Patrick. I added more arrows to make the flowchart more fluent, change digital to numeric, and use the logo of Science for Georgia. I added a short link to our website on the best. So all these details improve the quality of my infographics. And for video, most parts are similar to graphic. The left side is my first video and the right side is my latest one. So you can notice that I moved the logo from the top right corner to the top center. And I changed the positions of subtitles to minimize unnecessary shading of the person in our video, and replaced some decorations with more meaningful words. And the last part is about future plans. I hope the intern after me can post more funny things and attract more followers. And for myself, I'll be graduate from UGA in May, back to my hometown, and my career plan is to find a job in local government or some other nonprofit organizations. And this is appendix. Thank you all for watching my internship wrap up. I'm so glad that my last semester was with you all, and I really, really enjoyed this internship. Hope Science for Georgia could help more people. Go teams!
Right. All right, that was awesome. I love that Chow picked up on the catchphrase that I think I use all too often in meetings. Cool. So we have actually 2 more videos left. Patrick got another one working for us. So we're gonna start with Caitlin's, and then we're gonna try untested technology for the last go around. So finally, we've got Caitlin Williams. Oh, hold on 1 sec. Let me get that sharing. And off we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caitlin Williams. I'm a University of Georgia student getting a master's in public administration. I found out about Science for Georgia through my career advisor, and he told me about all the internships Science for Georgia does. And I want to get into the policy analysis field, and this internship has been an incredible introduction to the policy process. I wish I could be there in person to share my experiences with you tonight, but unfortunately, I have a class presentation at the same time today. So I've made this video to highlight my experience and what I've been able to accomplish with the Science for Georgia team. Working on the legislative aid team, I gained insight into the bill tracking process. I was able to listen in on committee phone calls and learn more about the process that way, as well as use software such as Bill Track 50 to monitor and evaluate Georgia General Assembly legislation and create scorecards that Science for Georgia can use. I did extensive research into the green jobs movement, as well as created an overview on hazardous waste sites in Georgia and the screening method that is used in those evaluations. I also created an info sheet on crypto mining and the environmental implications that it has for Georgia. The highlight of this internship experience was being able to participate in Capitol Conservation Day in Atlanta. And I was able to speak to and talk to different Georgia legislators about the bills that we were monitoring and the environmental implications. So that was a great experience for me to see what the Capitol building is like and speak with my colleagues and learn from them in person as well. So what's next for me? I have 1 more year left in my master's program, and after I graduate, I plan to go into policy analysis. And I'm so grateful for Amy and the Science for Georgia team for being such great mentors for me during this time. To wrap things up, this has been an incredible internship experience. All the other interns and the Science for Georgia staff are so dedicated and work so hard to advocate for their communities and for science and policy. And I just want to say a big thank you for letting me be a part of your team.
Oh. All right, that was awesome. I'm just getting all giddy watching all these people do all this really great work. So last but not least, Patrick's gonna try and make technology work. So we're
gonna
all
give this a
pulling
shot.
for him. It's gonna go, Patrick. I have all the faith in you.
Okay. Let me know if you can hear this.
Nope. When you share your screen, you have to like check the little box that's just share video sound too.
Okay.
We're gonna give it one more shot. Otherwise, we're gonna say thanks, Ella, and we'll
There we
make
go.
sure.
Sorry about that.
We're gonna make it work. Second time's a charm.
Hello, science enthusiasts.
Yes.
My name is Ella, and I am an environmental justice intern at Science for Georgia. I'm a sophomore at Emory University studying environmental science and creative writing, interested in the intersection of the fields. This is why I was interested in Science for Georgia, seeing as it's an advocacy group that is focused on making science accessible for the public. It was through this experience of really diving into the real world of the policy sphere, talking to legislators, talking to advocates, talking to people in the community, I could really understand all of the lives and stories that go into how our government works and how our environment is treated and how our communities are built. And it is going to form the way that I interact with the rest of my life. One issue that I took particular interest in was the mining in the Okefenokee Swamp, and through Science for Georgia opportunities to receive trainings and information on what the permit process, the public comment process entails and what we can do about it, I had the opportunity to work with a group of Emory students who are also interested in this issue and write out an official letter from a student group here using the Science for Georgia skills and submit that for public comment to the EPD. Another issue I took particular interest in is clean energy and climate solutions in Georgia, and I'm currently working on a project which will be finished by the beginning of May, where I'm breaking down the Peach State Voluntary Emission Reduction Plan so that readers from the website for Science for Georgia can understand what the plan means, how it applies to them, what's missing, and what to expect for next steps. I aspire to apply my creative writing and environmental science studies at Emory to a career centered on developing and advocating for evidence and community-based solutions to environmental issues, which is why I saw Science for Georgia as a place to develop these skills. I had never before had the opportunity to do things such as visit the Capitol for an advocacy day, or even read bills and understand them within a community, and I am now capable of doing those things. I am so grateful for this opportunity to work with Amy Sharma and the whole Science for Georgia team. I think it is invaluable to my future skills and my career endeavors when it comes to environmental communication with a focus on environmental justice, to have this foundation in public policy and in my Atlanta community. And I am going to go into the summer with a new perspective on what it takes to preserve our environment. I hope that what people do next with the work that I have done is read, understand, and apply to themselves the environmental communication skills and see how this can open up your understanding of policy and of your community. Dig into the Science for Georgia website, look at the legislative scorecards that we've done for this session so that we can understand for the next session what we need to focus on, and where our needs lie. As a member of the legislative aid team, I've had the opportunity to scorecard bills in the current Georgia session, which has been a really enriching experience for me. It is difficult to read bills, and it takes that work of going through and understanding them with a critical eye to really understand the work that is being done in the policy sphere, and that can therefore help me understand the needs of the community and how they're being met. A highlight of my experience with Science for Georgia has been to take the skills that I've gained from scorecarding bills and applying them to real-life conversations with people in the community and also legislators. So I was very grateful for the opportunity to represent Science for Georgia at the Environmental Justice Advocacy Day at the Georgia Capitol. To focus on science is to hear the stories of real people, to hear the stories of nature, and to apply those to the work that we do. Thank you so much. All my life, I have been interested in how human and nature relationships intertwine. There's stories in that which I think are so rich and important to focus on when we're creating things such as policy, but also when we're just working in our community, which is why I was specifically drawn to Science for Georgia, whose issues of interest are currently the basics of water, food, education, workforce, looking at how these are interconnected and how our advocacy can improve people's lives.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So that is everyone. Yay! Go team, as it were. Just wanted to open it up and see if anyone had any final questions or comments.
I just want to say you all did amazing work this semester. I think the showcase was incredible, and we got to see the full breadth and depth of what Science for Georgia does. And you all have made significant contributions, and I hope you're really proud of that. And also, if you need a job, add me on LinkedIn, because I know a lot of
Way to flex, Alessandra. That was... I'm going to be adding her. I could use a job. I just want to echo actually what she said, and what I think we all experienced in this session was just the depth and the breadth and the passion that you guys have brought to the work here is just really inspiring. Honestly, I think you guys have all of you have something to be proud of. I know I'm personally very proud of you and feeling really proud of Science for Georgia, and thanking Amy for obviously and Frankie and Patrick and other Science for Georgia folks who have done some mentoring, but really all the impact that you guys have is really phenomenal. I'll mention a side conversation that Amy and I are currently having because there's a program that's going to be going on at Georgia Tech in their research. I'm a faculty at Tech, retired, semi-retired. But anyway, they're looking to hire some research faculty in the College of Sciences that are going to be focusing on, in particular, Georgia issues, environmental issues related to agriculture, and some of the other points that you guys have brought up. So the work that you're doing is actually laying some groundwork and some seeds for, I think, what will become, you'll see over the time, a real future impact, and you can really take pride in knowing that you were part of that at the beginning.
Thanks, Lou. Okay. Gosh, that was great, guys. I got a big smile on my face. That was super inspirational. So I want to say thank you to everyone for all their hard work this semester. Man, it's always good to look at all the stuff and think of all the cool things that now we have to take and run with this summer that you guys have laid the ground for. So yes, please come back on camera so you can all wave one last time and thanks for being awesome. Also, Joe, Christmas trees, loving it, just loving it. Thanks everyone for making life awesome this semester, and have a good night.
Thank you all for coming, and thanks for all your hard work.